Gallo, go ahead.
Shai, just wanted to ask you about the physicality that you guys had to have. It seemed like just point of attack, earliness. What stood out to you in that regard?
Yeah, we played to our identity. We played downhill. We played with force. We played decisive, and we made sharp decisions. When we do that offensively, we're really good. And then defensively, when we play together and play physical, we string stops together.
What was going through your mind when you saw Jay Will with that big putback? He just comes back from being out for a few games, and he seemed to be in great rhythm all night.
Yeah, it's winning plays. We have guys like that across the board that do the little things that add up at the end of the night, and ultimately are the reason why we win. Everybody has a role, and on this team, everyone takes pride and does their role to the best of their ability, and that's what that play was all about.
So Mark was in here just talking about Miami's back screens and just how much they got off that in the first half and the back cuts and the post entry, just all the things that had you guys maybe scrambling in the first half the way you guys weren't come the third. I think of, the block you had in the fourth. By then, it felt like you guys were beating them to every spot. Just what you see as the game went on to kind of make that adjustment and start, racing to their spots and whatnot.
We tried to communicate, and we tried to be the more physical team. Before the actions, during the actions, after the actions. A team like that with so many guys that are smart and veterans and guys that have played at such a high level, if you give them stuff like that, it's hard to win. And we knew we had to turn that off a little bit in the second half if we want to come out here with a W, and that was the emphasis for us.
Yeah, and you've hit a ton of tough shots this year, big shots. That late three you had in the fourth, just what was going through your head when you hit that, and just as those final minutes were unfolding?
A little bit of a relief. Didn't really have my three ball tonight, but it's a shot that I've shot plenty of times. Comfortable shooting. An opportunity for it opened up, and I wanted to be aggressive and shoot it with confidence.
Yeah, Shai, Eric Spoelstra said he thought they lost the game on the backboards. You guys got a bunch of key offensive rebounds, turned them into points. What kind of an edge does that give you on a night when your shot's not going in, but you can still score with some offensive rebounds?
Yeah, it helps you win games. The more possessions, the more opportunities to score, and then ultimately you score more, you win. That's something that we kind of emphasize every 10 games or so. We check in on how we're doing offensive rebounding wise. And it's something that we kind of want to turn up a little bit, especially towards the end of the season. And when the game slows down, extra possessions are very key.
Shai, over the last year, you mentioned guys like Jordan and Kobe about it took them a little bit of a while to understand they need to trust their teammates and get everybody involved to really win at a high level. You've seemingly learned that super, super early. Is that something that just came up grassroots style, or is that something like in college towards the NBA that you really had to learn?
Yeah, it's how I was taught to play the game. When you need all five guys to win at the end of the night, defensively and offensively. And when you build their confidence and their trust, when there's games when you're going to need them, and when you need them, they deliver.
You said you didn't have your three ball tonight. You did take 7. You didn't take 7 once last year. You've done that a few times this year. What is there an emphasis there this season on just diversifying your game, or where's the attempts specifically come from?
I don't know. I think it's something that, when I go out there, I try not to worry about what I'm trying to accomplish or anything. I just play off a feel. Now I worked on it a lot in the summertime. At the end of last year, I knew my attempts were on the lower end, and I figured it'd help if I got them up a little bit. But I think it's just me out there shooting what's comfortable. I think that's the result of it. It's not like I come into the game or I came into the season I want to shoot more threes. It's just me doing what I've done all summer.
And then your team camaraderie seems to be really good. A lot of that seems to come from J-Dub. Is that accurate, behind the scenes? And then what specifically does he mean to your team? More in the locker room, behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's across the board for sure. I could say every guy in the locker room gets along with each other. Love being around each other. But yeah, J-Dub is definitely one of the bigger personalities in the locker room, and he is kind of the glue guy for all that stuff for sure.
Yeah, Shay, what all does it take to become a really tough shot maker? Like, it seems like the degree of difficulty on your shots has risen even throughout this year, and then from last year to this year is even more. Like, just like, how do you replicate that when you're working out?
I don't really. To me, it's not really like, when it comes down to it, it's not really a big shot. It's just another shot. And most of the times, there's shots that I've shot in millions of times, so I'm confident shooting them. And when I think about them, I just think about them as shots. So I either make them or I miss them, and I live with the results. So that's kind of how I go about it. So I don't ever shoot a shot like, all right, this one has a little bit more weight on it, so I hope it goes in. Nah, I just shoot the ball how I've shot it my whole life.
And then 47 30-point games that now ties Kevin Durant for the most in Thunder history. Approaching history with when you hit 50 in a few games, more than likely. Do you ever get the time to even just think about how special of a season you're having, or do you not even think that far ahead, or do you just because it truly is a special season?
Yeah, I don't think that far ahead at all. Season so far from being done. So much more work to do. So much more getting better that I can do personally and my team can do. We have super high goals. And yeah, we just know that there's so much more left. And we don't feel like we've really accomplished anything. So I don't even think that far ahead, to answer your question.
Thank you, Shaq.
I think they can hear me.
Nick Gallo, OKC Thunder. Jalen, just want to ask you about the physicality tonight that you guys demonstrated, and that's obviously a team that's known for that style of play for a long time now. Why do you think that you guys were able to kind of win that aspect of the battle that helped you win the game?
I think we were able to match it. It was just kind of like one of our key points. Like you said, that's a team that's been in the finals, so they kind of know how to be physical, and I think this is kind of the part of the season where they're letting a little more physicality go. So understanding that, we just tried to match that, and then I think once we kind of got even with them, we tried to exceed it, and I thought we did a good job with that.
Aaron, we've talked about the 3-point shooting this year. You're finishing, the layup package. Have you noticed? You got the great baseline dunk tonight. Have you noticed teams starting to play you a little bit differently over the maybe this year compared to past years?
I don't think so. I don't know. Just read and react to whatever coverages or closeouts I'm seeing. But I haven't seen any major difference, I don't think.
Jalen, speaking of physicality, a little bit of a two-parter here, but people have just kind of mentioned this year, you and Shai getting to similar spots. Even Shai has kind of, mentioned it. You guys work on similar things. You guys have been around each other long enough to get to some of those spots, like that late bucket you had, the push dribble before you finished with contact, like that push dribble that seems to be like one of your signature moves at this point right now. Just walk me through the evolution of that, getting to that, and then also just your evolution as a finisher through contact.
Actually, I watched his highlights from college, and he does it a lot. So that's where I got it from. And then it's just like a reaction to the loads. I think a lot of times the way teams play us, they try and shell up a lot. So it was something that during the summer I had seen. So I tried to get to that, and I think it's an easier way to get to my spots, when it's kind of clogged up or when teams play good defense. It's not really something that people expect. I don't want to jinx it, but just kind of the way teams were playing us last year and the start of this year was something that I continued to kind of worked on in the summer to be able to kind of get to different spots. And that was like one of the ways that I thought was really, really effective, especially because I go left and, going right as well, being able to do it. So, just understanding that, how teams were playing us, and I think just make it easier to not be as easy to guard. And what was the second word?
Just finishing through contact, because at this point, you've had, I think back to Denver, the layup you had over like 3 defenders.
Four defenders.
That same bucket with the push dribble tonight, which is like one of the pivotal sequences down the stretch. Just you finishing through contact at this point. Maybe you might be the best finisher through contact on the team. I don't know.
I think just in the summer I was able to get stronger. It was something that I harped on. I think I was only shooting a little over maybe 2 free throws a game. So a lot of it was you don't want to leave it in the officials' hands because they're human too, so they might miss stuff. So a lot of it was just predicated on being able to finish through contact and not even have to rely on getting a foul. I think it kind of helped out just in that sense, especially for how much we go to the basket and we kind of attack the paint. I wanted to make sure that I was going in there to actually finish and not look around for a foul.
Go ahead, Barry. Barry.
Yeah, Aaron, I think you guys had 9 offensive rebounds. They had 7, and you outscored them 23-5 on second chance points. How much of a boost does that give you when rebounding's not one of your strengths, but when you dominate like that, how much of a boost is that towards victory?
Yeah, I mean, it creates offensive possessions, and the more offensive possessions you can get, the more you can score. So we emphasize trying to get offensive rebounds and sending certain guys to crash and grab those to create opportunities, and it leads to open threes and easy layups. So we did a good job of it in the second half, especially tonight, just kind of creating those opportunities.
Aaron, you've been praised for staying ready by this entire team, including Mark. What goes into, what are some of the qualities of a player who just stays ready even whenever you have kind of an abnormal rotational pattern?
I mean, I'm on the bench kind of with the gun. I'm stretching, and I'm just consistently just trying to keep, my blood flowing and staying active so that, when I get in, I'm just, ready to go, not having to stretch or get a flow of the game. Also, I mean, just being engaged, seeing those guys out there start the game, making sure that, you're actively supporting them. And, even though you're not on the court, they can hear certain things from the bench that you're talking about and yelling. So just being engaged and kind of understanding that, when you step on the floor, you got to be able to contribute and you got to be ready to go. So just kind of having that mindset, every day.
And then Jada, you've shared the floor a lot with Josh Giddey, and this week's been a really good week for him. Is there anything specifically you've noticed from him this week that's maybe improved or just fit better?
I think teams have been guarding him around the same, so I think he's getting a steady diet of what he wants to do and, sticking with the work that he's putting in, behind closed doors. So I think when you kind of have that combination with that and his confidence as a player, his output is going to constantly go up. And, I think he's just understanding what the team needs and how he can be effective with, different looks that teams that throw at him. I also think he's just shooting with more confidence, playing with more confidence. He's not hesitant. So he's a really good player. So when he's able to do that, which he's been able to do, it makes us all tough to guard.
Mark mentioned, or for either of you, Mark mentioned how he prefers you guys to get wins in a bunch of different ways, like scoring a lot of points, 120 plus, or wins like tonight where you only get 107. Because he says you want you guys to be more comfortable in those situations, no matter what it is. What's your assessment of that and the comfortability of winning any way the game goes?
Okay. I don't want to do the win's a win thing, but I think that's too what he's getting at, as we kind of wind down towards getting closer to playoffs and stuff. However you can get a win and scrape by to get a win and kind of go tooth and nail for a win is big. Anytime we can get a different win than how we had the last time, it just creates more learning experiences for us. I think we get in situations now where we've been in those situations that we have earlier in the year, so it gives us, a little more confidence going into those games and kind of knowing that we can win, through different circumstances. So I think that's probably what he's getting at. The more variance we have with different wins, I think just kind of down the stretch will kind of help us out.
Jalen, can you kind of walk us through the timeline of you watching Aaron's film? Was that this year? Is that typical of you to is that typical for you to watch your teammates college film?
Yeah, I watch everybody's highlights. There's nobody you can't learn from. So, but yeah, I'll probably go home and watch them. Yeah, during the summer. She got some good college highlights. You guys should go check those out. We got good NBA highlights. Tough.
Shai's talked about what it means to him to hear the MVP chants when he's at the free throw line. But what's it like to be Shai's teammate and to hear the crowd chant MVP?
It's tough. Sitting on the sideline, seeing that, this. I think that's something that every player probably, thinks of, having the opportunity to just be at the free throw line and, take a deep breath and you're hearing MVP chants and you just lock in and hit your free throw. So a lot of respect, and I mean his hard work is paying off. So it's tough to see. It's awesome.
It's like 2K.
There you go.
Almost for real. But it's cool to have like a city embrace you like that too. So yeah, it's surreal to hear it for him. You know, those experiences we lived through him as well. You know, so he's definitely earned it.
Thanks, guys.
Yo, y'all see him miss a three and then dunk the putback a while ago? Is that true? I seen the highlight, yo.
It's going to make you make a lot of efforts on multiple possessions throughout the game. Any that stood out to you as more important than others or turning points in this game?
I thought, midway through the second quarter when we kind of stabilized the game and got it back under 10, it was at 14, and that can balloon and get out of hand pretty quickly, especially with how they were playing. So that was huge. And then our response out of halftime I thought was really good. And I just thought overall, I mean, that's a team that, you really got to line up and put your chest on in order to beat them. I liken them to the Laker game the other night. They're a little slower pace. They try to just play through your chest. They pick on matchups. They make you deal with their personnel. It's very similar to Lakers. And I thought our physicality tonight, our earliness with our help, was a huge step forward from that game. Just like physical progress there.
After the game, Shai said that everything in his life is consistent. I was asking him about the 30-point scoring barrages that he has, but how do you see that impacting the way that he's able to score late in games and maybe the consistent approach, even in high pressure moments?
Yeah, I think that pressure. You need confidence under pressure, and I think his confidence comes from the consistency of his work. He works really, really hard on a very consistent basis, and that builds his inner belief, and that's what you need in those situations, especially in the spots that he's in. And I also think there's a contagiousness to that because he wasn't the only guy that played with great confidence down the stretch of that game tonight, and so he deserves a lot of credit for the swagger he brings to us and the steady energy.
It was the post entries they were kind of forcing, or the sort of back cuts playing behind the defense, but it felt like, especially in that first half, they kind of had you guys scrambling more than you maybe usually bargain for. But come that third, it felt like you guys were just getting to spots you weren't. Just what'd you see change there?
I thought they set a lot of back screens. They set back screens with guys that have shooting gravity. They really screened hard and execute, incredibly well coached, and put you in a lot of binds. And I just thought the tightness of our communication in the first half was not great, and I thought we got that corrected. The possession where Robinson made the three, I actually thought was a great possession. He and Rozier were dancing together on the wing and really trying to confuse a switch, and we did an unbelievable. We switched it out, clean like twice, and Robinson had to make a really difficult shot in order to score on that possession. And I thought that was, even though they scored, it was a good. Indicator of how tight we were, and that's how we want to look. We're not going to shut anybody out, but that's what we want the scores against us to look like.
Yeah, and I know Jay Will by now is kind of situational. There's his room for where his role thrives is kind of situational, but tonight he gives some really big minutes in his return. Just what'd you see from him, especially down the stretch there in his minutes?
Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job this season on point of attack bigs, teams that have bigs that they play through, in the post or in the the middle of the floor, guys like Jokic, Sabonis, and Adebayo's like that. And so he did a great job individually on Adebayo. He was really physical, and then I thought I was pretty intrigued by how we looked down the stretch with him and Chet out there. We had a lead. We knew they were going to be slower and ISO, and it allowed us to get Chet, behind the defense, roaming, and not at the point of attack because of how he did on Adebayo, and he allowed us to do that. So certainly happy to have him back. He played great.
On that, you guys at times this year, a lot of times this year, don't let teams dictate how you want to play. Like you went big when they were somewhat small. What does it take to allow you guys to dictate how the game is going to go, and not just like even with the like physicality, like I think things would have been different if they dictated how physical the game would have gone instead of if you guys dictated how physical the game goes.
Yeah, I mean, with physicality, we certainly want to be the aggressor every night, but so does the other team. You know, we're not the only team that's emphasizing that. So that's a contest of wills every time you line up. But in terms of lineups, you know, to the first part of your question, we're not always trying to dictate. You know, sometimes you have to be reactive. It's all about cost benefit. You know, like if the benefit outweighs the cost, then you can dictate. And in that situation, you know, I thought it did. I thought the benefit of going big like that outweighed the cost based on who they had out there and how we thought they were going to play. But you know, if a team does that to you, you know, and forces you to adjust, if, you know, the benefit no longer outweighs the cost, then you got to adjust to the opponent. And I think it takes some humility to do that. But we just try to stay focused on what's best, you know, in the situation we're in. And whether that's to be the aggressor or to be reactive, you know, we really don't care. We're just trying to help the team.
And then you guys have won games where you score 120 plus. You've won games where, like tonight, where you didn't even get 110. And I know you want to win every single game, but do you have like a preference on how you guys win games, or does it just not matter? Like, more so asking, like, do you have a preference on like how you guys play and how that outcome is?
I think, you know, it's nice to have a diversity of wins. You know, it's nice to have a diversity of opponents and diversity of games. You know, if you win the same way every single night, then when you end up in a wrestling match like tonight, you know, it's unfamiliar, you know, so I actually, my preference is that we're put in a range of situations and a range of, you know, styles, because that's how you grow, especially for a team as young as we are that's still accumulating experience. So to be in a game tonight, you know, against a slower paced offense, you know, on a night where we didn't shoot it particularly well, and to have to figure out a way to solve that puzzle, I think is good for us. And so I thought I was really, they're the like competitive standard of the NBA, you know, and so we have great respect for them, and we know how much you have to earn a win against them. So, you know, we're really happy with that win.
Mark, there's been a slight decrease in just Isaiah's frequency from three. How do you feel like teams have adjusted him this season with him being more of a known commodity as a threat from three?
Yeah, I think, you know, his attempts have been down in some games. You know, I think it's a couple things. First thing is I think people are aware of him, you know, because obviously he can change a game. The second thing is we have to find him. You know, like when he's open, he's got to get the ball. I have to find him. You know, I have to have a recognition of when he's not getting attempts, try to, you know, shake him free. But the thing that I respect about him, you know, I thought an unbelievable play in the Portland game, last game, was he had one shot. He was 0 for 1 against Portland. And we ran an ATO late to get him a shot, and two guys jumped out at him, and he dumped the ball down to Chet. And I think he got fouled, or he might have finished it. I don't even remember the outcome, but we scored on the play. And, you know, for a guy that's 0 for 1, he's, you know, known as a marksman, gets the play drawn for him, so it's, you know, seriously, you know, obviously a green light. For him to just read the game and make the right play is pretty impressive. And that's why you let him play through the low volume or a bad shooting night, because he does a ton of invisible things that help the team on both ends of the floor. And I got a lot of respect for his approach.
And speaking of his gravity, how much can you just attest to how much it helps even when he's not taking shots, just the spacing he provides?
Yeah, it's huge. You know, I mean, you just look, we run him around and his guy is glued to him, you know, and that's just one less defender in help. And when you move him around the floor, you know, you can change where the help's supposed to come from, you know, and so actually they're one of the best teams at that. You know, they've done that now for years with Robinson and Strus and Vincent and all the guys they've had. Even Ellington, back when they had him. I mean, they use the shooting gravity and they move your help defense, and, you know, it's really, really tough.
Josh had a good week of kind of just production and also just better overall. How have you seen him play this week, and kind of what has stood out for him?
He's had a great week. You know, he's really competing at a high level. I think his floor game has had great balance. He's obviously playing with a lot of aggressiveness and confidence. And the thing I'd say, you know, I was talking before the game, I think Andrew asked about Lou, you know, and I was talking about players are in different seasons in their career, you know, and he's having a small little breakthrough right now with just the way he's playing. And I think, you know, obviously he's had an up and down season, which is normal for any professional, especially one that's 21 years old and in their third year. And I think some of little pop that you're seeing from him right now is a result of some of the adversity or plateau that he's had to overcome. And I think it's important to keep that in mind with all of our players. It's like they're not going to be on a perpetual linear ascent. It's the NBA. It's really hard. And he's the latest example of that. But he was great tonight.
Andrew Schleck with The Athletic. Shai takes and makes a lot of really tough shots. I'm just
good observation.
I'm curious what goes through your mind, like as you're watching him, because like he takes some shots that are, like there's some that you like slow down, they look ridiculous, and I'm just curious, like as the coach, you've seen all of his shots, but what goes through your mind as he's like taking and making these really difficult shots, like during the game?
I mean, I'm not like over there in awe. I'm just trying to help the team. I'm grateful for the talent of all of our players, and the talent they bring to their roles. I can't say that in front of them. You got to keep them humble. The thing I'd say is like he takes and makes really tough shots, but the thing that he's improved at the most this year is leveraging that for the good of the team. And, as we've seen over and over and over again, an individual talent in a team game can only take you so far. And the guys, when they figure out how to leverage their talent to make the team better, that's when, it's really tough. And he's in that process. He's been in that process now for a while. It's an ongoing process. He's not even where I think he will be 1 or 2 years from now. But that subtly, the shot making is great. He's had the talent from day one. But what I'm most impressed with is the restraint he's showing and his ability to see the big picture, to leverage that talent, for the good of the team while he's still trying to accomplish individual things.
Wasn't Lou's most statistically flashy night, but it felt like he had a huge impact. He led the team in plus minus. He played a ton of minutes, took on assignments. Can you just kind of speak to his night
Lou?
All over the court?
Yeah, he was on it tonight, especially with Butler. Great energy. I thought the energy of the game shifted in the second quarter with him out there, with Hayward out there. When Shai came back in, like I said, that was that was the most important part of the game. And I think it takes a recognition competitively of like, hey, this is a really important period of the game. And he always seems to know that. He knows when he has to amp it up, and he amped it up tonight. Thanks, guys. Yeah.